Hello everyone, it's Retroaction, and this is my review of Transformers Rise of the Beast. This is a spoiler review. I'm finally here, and I've got to say, to start with, it was a phenomenal film. Absolutely loved it. Probably one of the best Transformers films to date, other than, the Transformers movie from 1986, and if you ask me, Dark of the Moon still takes number one in terms of the current film franchise. But yeah, it was a phenomenal film. Let's start with the storyline. So it starts right away with Unicron appearing at the start, and then you got these like Scorponok, Predacon style robots coming down, which is really cool. And then we jump to Appalink and Scourge fighting each other, and Appalink gets slaughtered. Appalink gets murdered, and his emblem gets put onto Scourge's shoulder, which was really cool. That was brutal, that scene. So right away, there's a lot of action. And then we go to the modern day in New York City, and there's a few moments of the human characters, Noah and Elena. And then we get to Mirage. Noah finds Mirage in a car park, and then obviously that's his first interaction with the Autobots. And then we meet the rest of the Autobots, and Optimus Prime goes through a bit of character development in this film, which is something we have not seen in the previous films, because he doesn't like humans at first, and he actually doesn't want to help Earth as well, which is interesting. And that's just a different take on the character to what we've seen in the prior films, so that's pretty cool. But either way, so yeah, we've got Optimus Prime, RC, Bumblebee, they all get introduced. And then we go to, and then a bit later on, they discover the Transwarp key, and they go to the museum where they fight the Terracons, and we see Scourge, Battletrap and Nightbird face Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Mirage and RC, and Bumblebee gets killed by Scourge, which is again quite a shocking moment. But I guess you could have assumed that was the case by looking at the trailer. He did get quite the beating in the trailer, Bumblebee, and then you got Scourge adding Bumblebee's Autobot emblem onto his shoulder, because he keeps like the emblems of everyone he's killed, which is pretty cool. It's something they carried through to the Studio Series version of the toy, which I'm definitely going to have to pick up now I saw the film on the 13th of June. And Scourge was phenomenal. He is such an evil, such a scary, imposing, menacing villain. Probably the best Transformers villain, I think. Scourge was just fantastic. And of course, there's the whole thing with Unicron, and we actually get to hear a bit of the Transformers the movie score with Unicron's medley. We get to hear like a remastered version of that, a modern version of it, for the scene where Unicron meets Scourge. Well, they like Unicron talks to Scourge, so that's really cool. I didn't catch that at first, but I've rewatched the scene and listened to the score alongside the Transformers the movie score, and yes, it is there. There is a homage to the 1986 film, which is really cool. Anyway, so yeah, the museum scene was really interesting. The museum battle was fascinating, because we get to see Frieza, which is the first Rise of the Beast figure I picked up from the Studio Series, and I was worried that he wouldn't make much appearances in the film. To my surprise, they used him quite a lot. He was utilised quite heavily in the film. He was used as like Scourge's minions, and yes, that's right, there's more than one of them, so that was really cool to see that even a minor character like Frieza from the toy line, which didn't look like he was going to be doing much, actually got quite a bit of screen time. And yeah, we saw in the final trailer, of course, that there was a scene with him in the museum, but he would reappear a lot later on as well. And that museum scene was quite, that was quite epic. There's a few scary moments there as well, with a giant blast. The place gets decimated, and then it was full of action. It was a pretty damn cool battle scene, and again, it ends with the shocking death of Bumblebee. So you would think that's quite a brave move for this film to take. And then after that, Optimus Prime obviously gets really annoyed that Bumblebee's been killed, and he wants to die as well because of that. And then we finally make our way to Peru, because they need to find the Transwarp key before the Terracons. So we find the Stratosphere, and they take off to Peru for the final act of the film. They go to Cusco, something like that, the capital of Peru. And then they have to masquerade, the humans have to masquerade as the local people for the parade, while the Autobots they have to try and sneak in to get the Transwarp key. Actually, we meet Air Razor at the museum, which is something I wasn't expecting. I forgot that bit. And then Air Razor tells them, then Elena because she was at the museum. Actually, I missed quite a bit, because obviously in the museum there's a statue of Airazor that gets destroyed by Elena, and they find this code, and then after the museum battle, Airazor turns up, and Elena shows her the code, because Airazor says the transport key, they only have half of it. The Terracons only have one half, the other half is still with the Maximals, so they have to go to Peru, and Elena has the rest of the code written down, and that's what causes them to go to Peru, because they know where it is. And so they go to Peru, and we meet Stratosphere, and then they take off, and then begins the third act of the film, the final act of the film, and again, the humans masquerade as the local people for the parade, and they go to like the Maximal caves that we've been seeing in the trailers, and interesting enough, there's no Maximals there. The transport key's missing, and then Frieza attacks again. Well, Freezers, I guess you could say, because there's multiple of them. And then you see Battletrap, Nightbird, and Scourge, who are now in Peru, and there's actually a scene where they chase the Autobots as well, which is pretty cool. But they're like on the rooftops, they like transform and then chase after them on the road, which is really neat. Again, we saw that in the trailer, so it's kind of cool seeing all those scenes. Yep. So yeah, they discuss and they say that the transport key's been found, so they go after the Autobots, chase after the Autobots, and then we meet the Maximals. And then suddenly, while going across the jungle, Optimus Primal, Cheetor, and Rhinox turn up, and we see that Prime meets Primal clip that Paramount showed us before the film came out. It's like a preview sort of thing. That was really cool to see how that was actually integrated into the film and where they slotted it in. And obviously that clip ended with Optimus Prime and Optimus Primal facing off with each other. And interestingly enough, Airazor comes in and stops them. So that's something we didn't know. So that was a surprise. And then we get the final battle. Well, actually what happens is Optimus Primal entrusts the humans with trying to secure the transport key, but then it gets taken, and then Airazor gets attacked by Scourge, which is something I was not expecting at all. And Airazor ends up being killed by Optimus Primal at Machu Picchu, however you pronounce it. And yeah, that was a complete shock, the fact Airazor dies. Because I was actually going to try and see which one was the more studio series, which one was more film accurate, but the fact is we didn't see their robot mode. We didn't see her robot mode at all. So that was really interesting how they did that. Same goes for the Scorponok things. We never saw them in robot mode either. Maybe they don't even have one, but Airazor definitely does, and we never saw it. And she gets killed off, which is, again, that was a complete shock. I was not expecting that at all. Again, that's something this film did very well. Lots of surprises. It was really interesting the way they did that. And then obviously Optimus Primal and the Autobots, the remaining Maximals and the Autobots then face the Terracons, who have successfully opened a transport portal to bring Unicron to Earth. And then the final battle ensues. I thought the ship was going to be like something like the Nemesis out of the final season of Beast Wars Transformers, but it was just a portal at the end. I was hoping it'd be like a Terracon spaceship. That was a bit underwhelming. But it's kind of like the thing in Transformers Prime, that fortress, Dark Mount. It kind of looks like that. It was a very cool battle scene though. And the interesting thing is they deactivate it. The interesting thing is they have to deactivate it with a code, which is not what I was expecting. So I thought it was a ship that would get blown up or something. But no, instead it was a portal that they had to close down. So the final battle was interesting in that regard. It was still very awesome though. It was really cool seeing Optimus Prime with his battle mask and everyone running into battle. It was really cool. We got like Cheetor that does like a flip and then transforms, and again Optimus Prime gets out his swords, everything like that. Really cool stuff. And that final battle scene was awesome. Again, we saw Optimus Prime attacking the Scorponok creatures. Scorponok-esque creatures. I don't really know if they've got an actual name, I haven't checked. And then the most shocking part is Bumblebee returns. Well, that's not the most shocking part, but something to do with it. Something happens where the Energon gets detected around the Earth, and then it turns out they left Bumblebee on some Energon, so he gets revived. And he comes back in, and that's where that scene we've seen in the trailers, where he shoots down the whatever these probe things Unicron's shooting down, which I believe are more freezers. And basically that's it. And then afterwards, Bumblebee comes in, Optimus Prime. And then we see Noah with his exosuit, which I think was something we saw a bit earlier. And the most crazy part, well, the most shocking part was the fact that Battletrap says, I want a real fight, and then he immediately gets dismembered, and then he immediately gets taken apart. Which is really shocking. I was not expecting that at all. That was the most shocking moment for me, the fact that all the Terracons die. The fact that Battletrap gets taken apart. I did not expect the Terracons to die, because this is the beginning of a trilogy. The fact that the main villains all just got killed off by the end of the film was something I was not expecting whatsoever. It leaves me wondering what they're going to bring in for the next film, because the Terracons are some of the best Transformers villains we've had so far. Even better than the Decepticons in the live action films, I think. And the fact they all just got killed in this film is kind of a shame, to be honest. Again, another very brave move this film took. And it's something I did not see coming whatsoever. So yeah, Battletrap gets killed off, which in my opinion was the coolest looking of the Terracons, but he hardly had any screen time really. He could have done a bit more. He did have some good moments though. And then Nightbird gets taken apart, gets shot down by Bumblebee and gets destroyed a bit later. And then you've got Optimus Prime and Scourge, which have a bit of a fight. And in very similar fashion to Revenge of the Fallen, Optimus Prime rips Scourge's face off and then kills him. So, and that's the end of the Terracons. And then the Terracons are absolutely obliterated. And then somewhere around there's this thing where everything gets sucked in, and Optimus Prime has to cling on. And then probably the most ridiculous part of the film is that Noah in his exosuit is able to hold on to Optimus Prime and keep him from getting sucked into the portal, I guess, which is as it closes. So that's probably the most ridiculous part of the film, but it didn't last that long. And then finally, it's all over. So that's it. That's Transformers Rise of the Beast. That's the story. As for what I liked about the film, well, there's lots to like about the film. One of the biggest pluses was there was a great balance of human and robot action in Transformers Rise of the Beast, unlike the previous films where there seems to be a lot of focus on the humans and not much on the robots or Transformers even. This film, the focus was mainly on the Transformers. You saw there was lots of screen time for the Autobots and the Maximals and the Terracons. You really got to know the characters, you really got to understand the characters. There was a lot of moments with those characters. You saw the Autobots talking amongst each other, which was really cool, a bit like they did in G1. And the Maximals, they didn't appear for that long. They were saved for the very end, and you didn't see much of Cheetah or Rhinox really. But they were there. And the humans were kind of set aside, which is what we've been wanting this whole time with the Transformers films. So that's fantastic. And Stephen Cable Jr. was a fantastic director. This film was absolutely phenomenal. As I said before, it was faithful to G1 and Beast Wars. Transport technology was something carried over from Beast Wars. The Maximals was carried over from Beast Wars. The Terracons were a new take on the G1 Combiner team, and a really good take on it. And again, I don't know how they're going to top them for the rest of the trilogy now they've been obliterated. So hopefully something else comes. Obviously Unicron's been saved for the end. I actually thought he might die like he did in Transformers the movie, because they already brought him in, but luckily they didn't do that. Though it's not to say it hasn't been done before. Like I said, it's been done in Transformers the movie before. But so Unicron is obviously going to come back at some point during the rest of the trilogy. Probably the next film. And actually no, the film ends with the whole thing with G.I. Joe, doesn't it? Yeah, that's going to be interesting, and I believe the next film in the series will probably be that crossover. I don't know though. I mean, there's Transformers 1, but that's an animated film. But the next film in this Rise of the Beast, the trilogy Rise of the Beast has started, I think it might be that G.I. Joe Transformers crossover. We'll have to see though. Or maybe that'll be a separate film entirely. Not sure yet. We don't know much about it. And none of those vehicles look like G.I. Joe. I mean, I've never been into G.I. Joe that much, but I didn't see any Sky Strikers or anything like that. There wasn't. That G.I. Joe base that we saw at the end was kind of confusing. But yeah, they're definitely trying to bring all the Hasbro stuff together, Hasbro properties together in a cinematic universe, much like they were going to do with Mask and all that a few years back, and Visionaries, and that all got scrapped for now. So it looks like they're definitely going to go ahead with that, try and combine Transformers and G.I. Joe together, which is something that goes back to Generation 1, so it's nothing new there really. But the G.I. Joe films haven't done very well, so it's going to be interesting to see if this is a good idea or not. And obviously some people don't think it's a good idea, as I've heard already, but we'll see. But we're yet to know, well, we yet to know when that crossover happens, and if it's the next film in the trilogy or what, or if it's a separate film, who knows. So that probably means we'll see G.I. Joe characters in the rest of the trilogy, I don't know. But hopefully we see more of the Maximals in the next film. And I was really surprised that Airways has stayed dead. It's a shame really, because she was a really good character. She's one of the best characters in this film. And she appeared for most of it. She appeared longer than the rest of the Maximals and then got killed off, which is a real shame. Especially given I wanted to know which one was the more film accurate version, but we didn't even see her robot mode, so it doesn't really matter now. So I was surprised, to be honest. That's one of the biggest surprises in this film, was the fact some of the Transformers didn't even see them transform. Like Air Razor and those Scorpion things, and Freezer. Freezer never became a target master like he was in the toy line, so that might be a toy line only thing. Either way, he's still pretty cool, and I'm still quite pleased that he showed up for longer than just 2 seconds, because he looked like a bit of a throwaway character, to be honest. Fortunately, the scene of transit got cut out, the Decepticon that's going to appear in the film. That's a shame. I found that out before I went to see it, which is a real shame. And yeah, this is the first Transformers film to not have any Decepticons, which is a very interesting, bold move there. Something that this film's done a lot, as I've said before. Yeah, so the battle scenes were fantastic. The museum battle, that final battle, was there any more? I mean, there was a battle in Peru just before the final battle as well. And the whole volcano thing was really cool, and I loved how they used Bumblebee's volcanic mode that they used for the Studio Series figure. I really like how that was incorporated into the film. A bit surprised though that they didn't use that military truck, like Transformers Prime Beast Hunter style mode they've got for Optimus Prime in the toy line. I'm really surprised that didn't show up. So I'm wondering where that came from. Obviously Transformers Prime, that's definitely where it looks like it came from. But I was honestly expecting that to be like a volcanic mode, like, what's the Bumblebee called? It's Volcano Showdown, I think is what they say on the back of the Studio Series box for that Bumblebee. So I really liked how Bumblebee became that off-road vehicle in the volcanic scenes. Though it might have been like that in Peru before then, but I liked how they used that for the volcano battle. And it was really cool, and that definitely answered the question of where that final battle took place, which was interesting. No time travel involved, which is something that would have been cool, but there we go. Again, something that Beast Wars did. Well, there was time travel actually. Kind of. They did go back. Well, there was like travel across worlds. So maybe there was time travel in the film, not too sure. And again, really liked how they used the part of the 1986 score for Unicron. Unicron was really cool, his voice was really good. A fantastic, much better rendition of Unicron than what we saw in the last night. It's great that he finally appeared for real this time. I did like him last night, but we didn't see enough of him. It's great that we finally got that film featuring Unicron. So that's really cool that he's been brought in. That's fantastic. So like I said, Scourge was probably one of the best characters in the film, easily. One of the highlights of the film was Scourge. The voice acting, the character, again, he was just really menacing and scary, and that's what you want for a villain. And he was really good, and it's such a shame that he died. And I'm hoping we see a toy of him with that mask, with the removable mask, because that other face he had was quite cool too. And again, very much like Revenge of the Fallen, Optimus Prime just rips it off. Optimus Prime just rips his face off and kills him. So there was a lot of Revenge of the Fallen style stuff, because there's like a forest battle scene as well with Scourge and Optimus Prime, where Scourge rolls in and then transforms, and Optimus Prime, they clash. That was very much like the forest battle in Revenge of the Fallen. And again, the ending, where Scourge gets killed, is very much like Revenge of the Fallen. So it's interesting how they've taken a few cues from there. Overall, it was a phenomenal film, and again, really liked how there was a good balance between the humans and robots. There was lots of Transformers action. There wasn't just a focus on the humans like there had been in previous films. That's been one of the biggest complaints. I agree with that. It was great to see that changed. The characters were really cool. Mirage was fantastic. He was a great, and I liked how they they ended up using Mirage instead of Bumblebee for most of the film, because Bumblebee's been like the go-to from practically the whole series at this point. So it's good that they changed it up there. And overall, the Maximals were great. The Autobots were fantastic. Optimus Prime having this like not caring for Earth and just wanting to care for Cybertron was really cool, and that's something I hadn't seen in previous films. Again, that surprised me too. There's just lots of surprises all around, and overall the film is just fantastic. So that is Transformers Rise of the Beast. Definitely recommend seeing it. This has been Retroaction with the spoiler review. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.